It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Happy Friday, everyone. Thanks so much for being with us. This is Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. I'm Alex White. As always, on Fridays, we have a very special sponsor. Today's show is brought to you by footballcontest.com. If you want to enter any Vegas football contest this summer, go with the pros at footballcontest.com. Experience matters, so visit proxy.footballcontest.com. Use our promo code SBTB for a special offer from Maddie and Tony. There it is. Perfect. We're also going to have a guest talking about football today, so it works out very well. As I mentioned, Alex White here.
I'm Jeff Parles. I was going to introduce Ryan McCormick, who's going to be on the show later, but that's too early for Ryan McCormick at 9 o'clock. We'll bring up the guest in the starting five here this morning. You can swoosh it across the screen, good sir, Sean. And as always, we'll see Vegas Matty, by the way, next week on the show.
Yes,
He'll be here next week, so it'll be good to talk to Vegas Matty as we're getting even closer to football season, which means you better get your entries in, and you better, if you're out of state, better get your proxy ready to go with Matty for sure.
He has been very busy this week, so glad he can make some time for us next week.
Absolutely. Let's go to number one. Let's start there. 3 NFL preseason games today. How about both favorites covered yesterday, Alex White, to kick off your preseason? Texans, 2.5-point favorites at the Steelers. That's a favorite flip from where it opened. It actually was Steelers 2.5, now Texans 2.5. Atlanta's 3 on the road at Miami. That's actually really not a big mover on the side. Total has moved, though, from 36.5 to 38. And then number 3 on that list is the Eagles and the Ravens. How about Baltimore was -3? Now Philly's -2. Totals dipped 2.5 points from 37 to 34.5.
Very interesting. We'll give our thoughts in about 10 minutes or so. Number 2, Phillies win game 1. Zach Wheeler will get the start today against Ryan Nelson and the Diamondbacks. Phillies pretty big favorite, -136. Total sitting at 8.5. Diamondbacks still playing very good baseball, though, 12-3 in their last 15 games.
It was weird to see the Diamondbacks actually lose yesterday. How well they've been playing. Extrapolate that out. I mean, it's even more wild out to 20 games. It's 16-4 for Arizona. Just scorching hot right now. Number 3, we go to the Pacific Northwest, a big series for both the Mariners and the Mets. You'll hear about what Ryan Haniger did yesterday. First player in baseball history to do something on that walk-off. So we'll save that for noon. That's a little tease for way later on Punchlines. Did I say Ryan? You're Ryan. Mitch Haniger, of course, formerly of the Giants, now back in Seattle. That's a bad miss early in the morning. Mariners from -115 to -123 on that one with the M's. Again, still in that dogfight in the AL West.
Number 4, Jack Flaherty gets his second start for the Dodgers against Mitch Keller and the Pirates. Yay. Whoa. Oh. I don't have the Dodgers number on there. I have the Yankees. So what
Dodgers right now, I'll give you the assist here. Pretty close. Dodgers are $2.
Okay.
So you were pretty close on that price. $2 favorites with the Dodgers. Now one, Alex.
Wow, that's a great start for us here on a Friday.
Look, it happens. It's only going to go up because Sammy P joins us at 9:30. 7 futures Sammy P wrote up at Fox Sports. I can already tell you we're going to have some conversation on one of them. I can tell you that right out of the gate.
Little difference of opinion.
You know what? I'm more just curious his opinion on something else based off of one of the bets.
Okay.
Because it creates a trickle-down effect where I'm curious to see where he goes, if that makes sense.
It does. Yeah.
So we'll discuss that. And also we get to mention a MAC team for the first time this year on the show, which is always a lot of fun with Sammy P. By the way, Ryan Haniger really liked that starting 5 this morning, whoever Ryan Haniger may be. Let's get into it here. Let's go to the baseball card. We haven't had a start like that in a while, which is good, which means we're going to improve as the show goes along. Padres and Marlins. Let's start there. And I know we both have a play on this game, which might alarm everyone that's listening to us here if I'm trying to torpedo Alex, who, by the way, an undefeated day yesterday. And honestly, all the ways you were looking to go about things would have worked also.
Except for one,
because the Met team total went zooming over, so that was all good.
The
Marlins did go over their team total.
I think it was 3.5.
Yeah.
So,
but everything else was okay, though.
Everything else
good.
was, yeah.
Speaking of those fish, they're taking on the Padres, who just the run San Diego is on. We're basically, sorry to our Pittsburgh contingent, the Pirates season is more likely than not done after taking a sweep at the hands of the San Diego team in Pittsburgh this week. Now they go south to Miami. I don't get this. I know that Cabrera, when he's been healthy, has pitched at a very high level. Now, he doesn't go deep into games, but when he's been on the mound, very high strikeout per nine rate, low whip. Not this year so far, but that's limited action for Cabrera so far this year. Martin Perez, who, of course, moved from Pittsburgh to San Diego at the deadline, goes for the Padres. I think this should be about a minus 140, and we're getting minus 120 on this game.
As you mentioned, great strikeout rate. Does walk quite a bit, though. First time seeing the Padres this year for Cabrera, but I'm with you. I like the Padres. I even like them on the run line if you want to sprinkle a little bit there. They have just been playing so good. Their WRC plus in the last 3 games is 146, but on the season it's 112. So it's a above average offense anyways. And now we're just seeing them all really click together here. So yeah, I think that's one of my favorite plays on the board, but the money has been going the other way.
Entering today, San Diego is 2.5 behind the Dodgers. That's the closest they've been since April. They are in the number 1 wild card slot. Before yesterday, they hadn't been there in basically the entire season. So this San Diego team has really, again, playing great baseball over the last month. A lot of this is going to sort itself out because a lot of these teams are going to start playing each other in this race. San Diego still has a few games left at Arizona. The Mets, currently in the 3rd wild card, play both of those teams in 2 weeks out on the West Coast. The Braves, who we'll get to in a few moments, are playing like a word I can't say on the air. I could, but I don't feel like saying it this morning. It's been an awful run for Atlanta over the last few weeks. As we said yesterday, outfield war, nice 0.1 between all their outfielders this year, Alex. So very bad.
Going back to this one, just to mention that Martin Perez, it is his 3rd start here with his new team in San Diego, was with Pittsburgh before. First start versus Colorado, really good. 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run on 3 hits. So now he's on a team that's really making the push. I think he'll be okay here against the Marlins.
Let's go to Milwaukee next. Brewers go to Atlanta. Sweep the Braves out.
Excuse me. Yeah. Right when I say I think they're going to fall back a little bit. should have said the Braves. Yeah. Right? These two did the opposite.
Well, I mean, you were kind of on track. I mean, they had lost 2 straight series, including one to Atlanta before that, and then went to the Braves and smoked them for 3 straight games. Not even a compare. I mean, 34 runs in 3 games for Milwaukee. Their offense came to life in Atlanta. Now they'll go back home. Cincinnati playing a little bit better. Probably still a little too far out to consider, hey, maybe a run could come with 5 teams to hop for Cincinnati in that race. 6 teams to hop, I should say, in that race. Currently 5 games out of a wild card spot. Spires and Savali minus 135 on the Brewers. This has kind of ping-ponged around. It opened minus 133, got as low as minus 125, but coming back up the ladder now.
I'm leaning towards that plus money here with the Reds and backing them again. As you mentioned, I mean, they have been playing really good. 6 straight overs for them, and that's because their median runs in their last 10 games is 6 runs, which is a big improvement for this team. WRC plus in the last 3 games, 142. On the flip side, though, you can't take anything away from this Brewers team. They have been playing outstanding as well. So it's a little tough, just a value play here. Pretty even with the pitchers. But if you made me play this, it would be on the Reds.
Only potential on Cincinnati in this game for Alex. Let's go to Denver. Rockies, worst in the NL, taking on the Braves. I'm a little bit perplexed by the move on the total in this game, Alex, where, again, limited action so far for Holmes this year. He's been fine, but just past history tells you that at some point that he's going to start getting hit up. And Gordon has struggled all year long. This has gone from 11 to 10.5 flat. I think over 10.5 flat is fine here. I know that the Braves offense has been in all sorts of a mess over the last month plus, especially. But we're talking about a game in Denver here against bad pitching. Just need a little bit out of Colorado here to get over 10.5. That would be the way I'd look.
It's so tough. I agree with you. I mean, I would normally play that here at 10.5, or even play the Braves, because I think this is a good spot for them against Tanner Gordon to get it going. Holmes has been good enough, as you mentioned, in that starting position, but I'm not touching this game. I can't trust Atlanta right now. And I mean, they were a lean for me yesterday, and wow, Brewers really took it to them in that one. So now they've lost 5 in a row. So I'm just going to stay back until they get things figured out.
Yeah, only the over would be the only way. And again, Atlanta entering today out of the playoffs. How about that? Up as much as 10 games on the Mets, who are currently in that third wild card in the NL wild card chase right now. Again, San Diego 4, Arizona 5, who we'll get to in 1 second, and the Mets 6. Speaking of the Diamondbacks, they had the big winning streak snapped last night. Phillies got them. And now the ace of the Phil staff goes tonight. Zach Wheeler, minus 136 against Ryan Nelson, plus 126. Total 8.5 here, Alex.
Looks like people are taking that plus money with the Diamondbacks. Saw 150 overnight, and now it is down to 133. I agree more with that Phillies being favored by 150 here. So it is, I mean, if it keeps dropping down, I might be obligated to take the Phillies in this one with Zach Wheeler on the mound. They've seemed to figure some things out too. Did go through their little slump of offensive deficiency, but now they've been putting the ball in play. So I would only lean to the Phillies here.
Phillies snapped that big 6-series losing streak with the series win in L.A. Again, it's even with the struggles, the Phillies still with the best record in baseball. So really, if you stabilize the ship, you're heading towards the whole Major League Baseball playoffs, going through the city of Philadelphia, whole NL and World Series potentially, if the chalk were to prevail, which we know in the NL, the chalk has not prevailed the last 2 years in the postseason. Speaking of the Dodgers, Jack Flaherty makes his first home start here for L.A., taking on Mitch Keller, who has kind of been the forgotten man in the Pittsburgh Pirate rotation. Again, when Paul Skeens and Jared Jones have gotten the attention. Keller's pitched very well this year. It'd only be a look at the Pirates here. I'm just wondering, after taking that sweep at the hands of the Padres, just wonder if this thing snowballs on Pittsburgh here, where things really start falling apart. Young team, haven't really been in this mix before. Just wonder, how do you handle a gut-wrenching series loss where they had the game 2 nights ago, won, and then blew it, and then yesterday had a shot to win and lost by a run.
It is a valid point. I mean, you do kind of have to think about where their head's at and how they are going to play. I will say on the side of the Pirates, they took 2 out of 3 in the first series when they played the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that can give them some confidence going into this game. And the Dodgers just lost 2 of 3 to the Phillies as well coming into this. So I'm with you. I think that there is some value there with that plus money. I think the Dodgers should be about minus 160. So, I mean, that's kind of a play right there for me. Plus 180 on the Pirates, who really need to get things turned around if they want to make it into the playoffs.
Pirates entering today, really just that series against San Diego really hurt them, as Pittsburgh entering today's action 4.5 out of the playoff spot. Currently, for the wild card teams, they're 7th in the line. So it really is fallen on the Pirates. Again, the Giants have kind of worked their way back into that. The Giants take on the Tigers today. The Tigers haven't named the starter, which they've been doing a lot recently.
And they've still been winning.
Yeah. Basically the most average team that baseball can put together, the Detroit Tigers. Doubleheader in Cleveland coming up next here, Alex. So game 1, again, make sure you're betting the right games if you're here in Nevada and going to the window. 9-11 and 9-12 is the first game. That's going to be Cantillo and Ober. Guardians coming off getting swept at home by Arizona. This is the closest this race has been in a few months, down to 3.5 now in this race. And this is the opportunity if the Twins, this is a 4-gamer, remember, because of the doubleheader today. Twins sweep, they would be in first place by the end of this series. Not saying that will happen, but if it did, that's how it would play out. I do think this price is a little steep in game 1 on Minnesota, though, with Ober. I'd be looking at the guards at plus 48 in game 1 here, Alex.
Unfortunately, I had Tristan McKenzie projected for the Guardians in this first game, so I don't really have a number for this one. I will mention, though, that the Guardians did win the first 5 against Minnesota this year so far. 4-1 to the under in those games when these two have seen each other. But it is a lean to Bailey Ober here. It's a big number. Can't really tell if we've got an edge there with the pitching matchup. But Guardians, they need to start figuring some things out too. 5 losses in a row for them as well.
Game 2 of that, Alex Cobb makes his Guardian debut for Cleveland.
Yeah.
Varland will go for the Twins. That's minus 116 on Minnesota, plus 106 on the Guards. That's 921 and 922 on your cards if you're betting it behind us or here in the state of Nevada. Nothing for me in that game. I think that pricing's okay. Cobb hasn't pitched. Cobb has, again, dealt with significant injuries over the last few years. I want to see what we got.
Yep.
I want to see what we got out of him at this point.
Agreed. I mean, a rib and then into shoulder and then push back a little bit.
It's pretty much everything
yes.
in that right arm.
So, yeah, we'll see what we have today.
Let's go to Tampa next. I know a lean, at least here for Alex, on the Rays against the Orioles. Orioles, again, just can't take advantage of when the Yankees lose. Yankees, by the way, already rained down and postponed playing a doubleheader tomorrow against Texas. So Eflin and Little, again, Eflin, of course, former Ray, returns to the Trop. Minus 28 on the Orioles, plus 118 on Tampa in this one, Alex.
So that does make it really interesting. Don't know really how to handicap that with going back to your old team, but just taking their numbers and where I have these pitchers rated, I do think Little has a little bit of a advantage here, is rated higher than Eflin. I mean, we know he can be really good, but we have seen both sides of him this season. So really just a play on that number here with Tampa Bay at home. And another thing that I did see is Eflin, never mind. I thought he was better on the road than at home, but switching teams, scratch that.
It would almost be a home.
Tampa
It would
Bay.
almost be a home start in that
It
case,
would, exactly.
based off of where he's pitched so far this year. And nothing for me in this game.
It
I
would
think,
be. Exactly.
I think these pitchers are pretty even, and all things considered on the Orioles. Again, it just feels like you missed an opportunity. Again, we talked about it. It could have been 4 or 5 games up on the Yankees, and just did not do what they needed to do in order to push that out a little bit in the AL East. Let's go to Boston next. Houck and Blanco, good pitching matchup at Fenway. Gopher Ball has hurt Tanner Houck recently. Minus 127 on the Red Sox, plus 117 on the Astros. Total of 10 for this one.
Great pitching matchup. I mean, that is a very high total, but when you look at how the Red Sox are playing, especially offensively, it's hard not to have anything but that 10. I lean to the Astros here. Everybody's kind of given up on Blanco, but I still think he is doing very well and pitching well at home or on the road. So a little bit with that plus money, I think that you've got an edge there with that plus 117.
Red Sox coming off a good series in Kansas City to get themselves within a half game in the AL wildcard chase for that 6th seed. Astros entering today in a virtual tie with the Seattle Mariners. Technically Houston, percentage point ahead, but Houston has 2 games in hand. So we'll see how that plays out over the stretch run, as we know, one of the closest races in baseball. Let's go to Washington next. Soriano and Parker, your pitching matchup for the Angels and the Nats. I think the market was agreeing with you here, Alex, where they have bet the Angels now. It's now minus 110 on the dime line behind us on the Nats, even on the Angels. That's from minus 120 on Washington down to that minus 110.
Angels take 2 of 3 against the Yankees. How about this, Jeff? Outscored the Yankees 17-6 in those 2 games. So Angels are playing good ball right now. Really, just the number here, I think they should actually be the favorite even on the road. Mitchell Parker, last 3 starts, 5.03 xFIB. So, yeah, I think we've got some value getting even money plus money here with a team that has been hitting very well and a pitcher that has been decently good as well. I mean, even 2.86 ERA in his 11 games that he's played so far. So.
Nothing in this. This is Angels have won 2 straight series at least, which more than can be said for most of the season for a miserable year there in Anaheim. Nats, I don't know, man. Mitchell Parker's been one of those guys, even though I can't really figure him out. Can't really figure him out this year. Minus 110 on the Nats. Let's go to the I-70 series. It was Kansas City hosting St. Louis at the K. Michael Lorenzen, Miles Michaelis in this one, total of 9. This is a play on Kansas City for me. Again, I've liked to go after Michaelis when I can. This is a relatively cheap price on KC at home. They took both games against St. Louis when they played in Busch Stadium earlier in the year in a doubleheader. I was a little surprised that this number came as short as it did on Lorenzen and the KC at home. I do like the Royals minus 16.
That would be the way I would play it too. I mean, the Royals trying to get back on track. They swept the White Sox, took 2 of 3 against the Tigers, and then lost 2 of 3 against the Red Sox. So they're trying to get back in that winning column. I do think Lorenzen is the better pitcher of these two going today. So pretty short price here for Kansas City.
Entering today, Kansas City 1.5 clear of Boston for that final wild card in the American League. We go to the Windy City next. It is the Crosstown rivalry is a lot of long faces with these two teams this year, Alex. Cubs obviously have been a disappointment. White Sox historically bad right now. It is a Garrett Crochet day for the Sox, but you see the Cubs at minus 131. I don't care that Crochet is pitching. I mean, that's a super good price to take against anyone going against the White Sox at this point, Alex.
It is. I think that is the way I would play it, but the Cubs have really been against me in the last week or so. When I bet them, they lose. When I bet against them, they win. But they are 6-2 in their last 8 games, so they've really been finding ways to win. Looking at do factor, though, Crochet, we have seen him maybe not play as long as we were earlier in the season. Do factor ERA 1.47, do factor xFIP 0.46. So I think this will be a tighter game. I don't know, maybe a run line here for either side, but nothing for me in this one.
Like you said, Cubs have won 2 straight series. They took 2 out of 3 from Minnesota, took 3 out of 4 from St. Louis. A little bit better, but they're in the same spot that the Reds are right now. Still too many teams to climb right now, 5 out of a playoff spot entering today's action. Going to the Pacific Northwest, the Mariners taking on the Mets. The Mets take 2 out of 3 in Colorado after everyone started panicking after they lost game 1. Now they'll go to the Pacific Northwest to take on the tied for first place M's. In this one, you got a pitching matchup of Quintana and Miller. Total 8, Seattle minus 123. Mariners have been bet in the market about 9 cents up from the opener in this one, Alex.
I can understand the bet on Bryce Miller here in this matchup, but really, I'm not trusting the Mariners right now either. I mean, their WRC plus in the last 3 games is 63, batting average 176. So we know that has been their struggle all year long, and we are going to continue to see them kind of go up and down. And I'm not betting against the Mets here today. Do you have anything in this?
No,
one?
This is a stay out. Quintana's one of those guys where beyond the hood, you're a little bit worried about where this is going to go. He had a weird outing on Sunday where just kept scattering base runners. Mets didn't score from him. They did. They probably would have stolen that game anyway. But then you have mixed in. He had the good start against the Twins. They scattered 8 base runners in 5 innings against the Yankees. Again, it's been a lot of base runners mixed in for Quintana over the last few weeks after that really good stretch where he only gave up 3 earned runs over a 5-start stretch. So, yeah, a little bit concerned about regression to the mean on Quintana's front. So no play for me in this one. And in the last game on the board, still waiting on a starter for Detroit. It's a big number on the Giants. It's minus 180, plus 165 on the Tigers on the takeback. Robbie Ray's actually pitched pretty well since coming off the IL. Of course, significant elbow issue for Ray that knocked him out for a year plus. I want to see what Detroit ends up doing here. I'll stay out of it. But that plus 165 feels a little bit juicy, at least on the surface, Alex.
I agree. I really do. I mean, especially the way the Tigers have been playing lately. I think maybe Kenta Maeda might get the start here.
It would make sense.
So if that is the case, then I do think that number is way too big here on the Giants with Robbie Ray on the mound.
NFL preseason, I just want to bring it up real quick because we mentioned it in the starting 5. I don't have anything today. But you have 2 games where the favorite flipped, where Houston and Pittsburgh opened 2.5-point favorites. Now Houston's 2.5-point favorites. And then going against the trend that basically everyone bet on the last 2-3 years post-pandemic with the Ravens.
Right.
going against Baltimore here today with Philly as a dog early. Now Philly favored by 2. Atlanta-Miami's been a pretty normal preseason betting game, all things considered, where Atlanta was 3. Now it's 2.5. And that total has moved 1.5 which is a pretty negligible move, all things considered, in a preseason game, Alex.
Yeah, nothing for me here either. It is very interesting, though, with the Ravens and them being bet against. I haven't dug into it, though, to see what was said on what side, because we are used to Harbaugh really actually playing to win these preseason games.
Hey, this is the interesting thing, because the Eagles, it's not like Nick Sirianni's been this great preseason coach. The Eagles are going to play their starters or their opening series. So I just wonder if there is a little bit of an aggressive move here of, hey, Philly's going to score against Baltimore's backups on the first drive, which I don't think is a guarantee by any stretch. So I'm a little bit perplexed in there. Houston is going to play their guys at least the series as well. Remember, Houston's clock is a little bit different than everyone else's because they played last week.
Right.
They played in the Hall of Fame game. So that's why you're seeing, I think, part of the reason that the Bears, which I know you'll talk about on tomorrow's show, the Bears are playing their starters at least for a series. I would imagine we'll see them for multiple series when it's all said and done. All right. When we come back, we're going to check in with our good friend Sam Panayotovich, Fox Sports, 7 futures to look to bet, and we'll talk with Sammy P about all of them when we get back. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
Have you always wanted to enter the biggest and best football contest in Las Vegas, but didn't know where to start and who to trust? Look no further than footballcontest.com to get the info you need to succeed, including breakdowns of the most popular and highest-paying football contests in the world, such as the Westgate Super Contest, Circa Sports Million, and Circa Survivor. Plus, find out how you can reserve the most trusted proxy in the business right now at footballcontest.com, as Maddie and Tony have been leading the way for over a decade with more than $10 million in winners during that time frame. All you need to do is find a way to get to Vegas sometime this summer and sign up for these football contests in person. Then let Maddie and Tony do the rest. They will submit your picks for you and help you focus on doing what you do best, picking winners. Don't miss out on the action this upcoming football season. Experience matters. So go with the pros at footballcontest.com. That's footballcontest.com.
From the South Point studio, the perfect blend of sports.
But I think the Niners are going to wear them down. Detroit Pistons lost their 36 games.
Comedy.
See over-under on that relationship lasting. I'm going to put mayo in the coffee.
Yeah.
I am beautiful.
And a whole lot of Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Yeah. Pittsburgh.
Join Ryan McCormick.
That's at least 2 picks outside of our own in the first round next year. Oreo.
And host Frank Nicotero.
I look at the clock, I go, ah! Ah! Oh!
Watch Punchlines live at noon every weekday.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. Bingo! And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. Jeff Parles, Alex White, all together here right now on a Friday, and now joining us in the flesh. He's here. Our good friend Sam Panayotovich, Fox Sports, of course. Sammy P, pleasure as always, man.
Thanks for having me. I cashed a 3-team parlay this morning.
Good.
It is heat, alcohol, and loud noises and yelling.
What did that pay?
Not well. I mean, alcohol was minus 5,000, you know. You go to these bet bashes and all that, and they're great, but they put 700-800 people in one spot, and then, you know, I mean, you know where it's at. So if you want to have a conversation, you either have to go in the bathroom or get over the music. So it's been a week. I mean, I've been here since Monday night.
Well, it's a lot of club music from 2013, basically.
It's the same song, basically, or the same 5 songs just on loop. But it's been fun. And, you know, when you guys said, can you come in Friday? On Monday, I thought it was a great idea. This morning, maybe not so much. But I apologize for the voice, but I was a good boy last night for you, too.
No, you look, you still sound good. So,
yeah, okay.
I want to start with Bet Bash really quick.
Yeah,
though,
absolutely, Alex.
What you did a live podcast, Chicken Dinner, at Bet Bash, where people go in there and watch, and you had a very cool guest. You had Roxy Rocksparrow. Where does he rank of your great guests? Because I know you've had a lot of cool people on this podcast, and talk about that and how it was for you, that experience.
He's right up there. You know, I've been honored to have Chris Andrews on basically every summer since 2016. That's been special to me. And I don't know if the crew has the picture from when we went to White Castle yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw how excited he was. So he comes on every summer. Derek Stevens has been on, but Roxy is one of those guys that doesn't really do a lot of media. So to me, it was special. And, you know, he's done like newspaper articles and all that, but in terms of like an hour-long sit-down, I don't think there's been a lot of that for him. So it was very special. And, you know, people that have told me about the panel were very pleased that we just kind of wound him up and let him go.
Uh-huh.
You know, like I stayed out of the way. What the hell am I going to say? You know, you're not there for me. You're there to see him. And then 30 minutes one-on-one and then 30 minutes of questions. So anybody that was in that panel was able to ask the legendary odds maker and the former bookie and all that. I mean, he was the odds man in the 80s and 90s here in town. Mm-hmm. So to be able to ask him any questions, awesome. Yeah, look how happy Chris is on the right.
I think that's the biggest smile I've ever seen out of him, in all honesty, Sam.
I sent that back home, and my mom said, "You look so happy." I go, "Me? Look at Chris." Yeah.
How many did you guys take down?
Yeah.
4 doubles.
4 doubles.
He had a fish slider, too. He said he hadn't had White Castle in 45 years.
Fish slider is a very interesting decision.
That's a Felica move. The bear does that.
Yeah.
I don't know if we could take that again, though. That is literally like, look how nice I look with Roxy, and look how much of a slob I look at White Castle. Can we get that up again one more time? I've got a nice little suit on, got my glasses on, and then the next day, look at that.
Well, I will say the most outstanding thing in all these photos, other than all the White Castle, Roxy's shoes are incredible.
Yeah, he says, I got them in London. I go, of course, got
naturally, yeah.
Sure, more than my car. Then I got the Donkey Kong throwback shirt with Chris over at the White Castle. So it's been a trip. I've seen so many people. A lot of people asking me if I can get them accounts. No, I can't. I will never get you an account if I don't know you. You know, people, wait, can I get an account? No, I'm not going to give you an account. There's a lot of that at Bet Bash. People want accounts. No, I'm not going to give you accounts. But it's been a great event, and Spanky throws a hell of a party. You guys have been around. You were up there.
Yeah, no, hey, look, we were all at the unabated event as well.
That's why I got
this
the
week.
shirt.
You got the great shirt that they gave us.
Yeah.
We had Captain Jack in yesterday as well. So it's been a fun week, as always. Let's go to an article you wrote.
Sure.
At Fox Sports. 7 early futures bets to make now is the title.
I did not make the title. They made the title.
Hey, look, that's it gets to the point.
I'm surprised they didn't capitalize now and put like 6 exclamation points after it, because you know how the editors go. But yeah, they basically said, you know, what are your favorite bets? And I love futures. I've done really well with futures over the years. And it's funny, like I think a lot of them are pretty solid bets, and then there's a couple that are kind of square. I don't care how square, and you've read the article. Yeah. The Kansas City Chiefs bet, people are going to read that and go, oh, nice pick. They have, in 5 straight years, made the AFC title game. They've won 3 Super Bowls. They've lost a Super Bowl. And then as a 7-point favorite in the AFC title game, you could have bet Cincinnati +7 for a middle. You could have bet Cincinnati to win.
You get a lot of good stuff in that game.
Bengals win that game, end up losing to the Rams. But Kansas City at 6-1 has been a bet that literally gets you to the Final Four every year. And I know that their offense might have lost some juice, but in the playoffs, Mahomes is he's just different. I think that Mahomes, Kelsey, Reed triangle is reminiscent of the Brady, Belichick, and Gronkowski. Those three are just going to have that team ready to go. And the crazy part about Kansas City is that their defense has become the strength of the team.
Yes.
I mean, they're a top 5 defense last year in basically every metric because they've been drafting guys on the D-line and in the secondary. Mahomes can make anybody good at receiver. Their defense has been their best unit the last 2 years, but when you get in the playoffs, you need that quarterback. So it's just the perfect mix. And at 6-1, if they get to the title game in the AFC, you could do whatever you want.
Yeah, and you make a really good point with the square or the chalk or anything, but look at the year that we've had. I mean, I've won more money off of Scotty Scheffler than anyone else, and then UConn, didn't matter how many futures we all had on all these great college basketball teams, it was UConn at the end. So I like that 6-1, holding that. Maybe you want to hedge a little bit when it gets down to the end, but you make a solid point there, Sam.
I think betting against Mahomes is silly. And how many stories or how many shows have we listened to when we hear that, there's value on the other team? And then Kansas City is up 14-3 at half, and the value is gone. The value is suddenly evaporated.
Well, it's interesting because I know you and I, we all exist on Twitter, and everyone's the smartest guy in the room, regardless of what their background is on Twitter. I can just see people saying, hey, Sam, couldn't we get a better number in season on Kansas City? Which, maybe you could.
Sure.
But your reasoning is so sound because at this rate, last year, everything that could have gone wrong, that possibly could have gone wrong during the regular season did, and they won the Super Bowl. Where it feels like, especially in an AFC West that is still not ready to compete either, there's really no argument, at least just putting it in the account. And then, like you said, you should have hedge opportunities more likely than not.
They're probably favored in 5 of the 6 divisional games.
Probably all 6, right? Maybe week 18.
Let's call it
maybe.
5.5 over under.
Yeah.
Bo Nix, Aiden O'Connell, and Herbert's banged up.
Yeah.
So I think this is one of those years where when we look at how Philly started last year, 10-1. I don't want to say KC's going to start 10-1 because that's not what I'm getting at. I don't think it's going to be as tough as people think. And again, if they start 5-0, then kiss the 6-1 goodbye. So I'd rather just put that 6-1 in now because if they get into the playoffs, they're probably going to be a 1 or a 2 seed, and there's a good chance that they have a path to host another AFC title game.
I want to go to another AFC team that you wrote about, and this is one of the hot picks this offseason, and that's the Houston Texans, who came out of nowhere, won a division a year ago, even won a playoff game, and their win total's getting bet up, to say the very least. We're seeing 9.5s in the market right now. You're looking at a different angle with them in year 2 of C.J. Stroud and D'Amico Ryans.
So I wanted to pull up the list because I don't memorize lists of like 9 quarterbacks, but the list of their opposing quarterbacks in the non-divisional games is unbelievable. So last year, just for context, Houston played the 3rd easiest schedule in the league.
Okay.
When you have a rookie, that's pretty good, pretty nice. They win a lot of games, they make the playoffs, they win that playoff game. Well, this year they get the 7th toughest schedule in football. But here are the quarterbacks that they face in the non-divisional games. Are you guys ready?
Go for it.
Josh Allen, Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, Tua, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson.
There's a lot of good quarterbacks mixed in it. Yeah.
It's like they're all in the top 10.
So let's say maybe 1 or 2 of them gets hurt, whatever. That's the NFL. Aaron Rodgers maybe makes it out of a quarter this year.
I would hope so.
Houston to make the playoffs now is minus 220, minus 230. There's a shop in town that's offering like plus 175 on them to miss the playoffs. That division with Indy, with Jacksonville, with Houston, I mean, any of those 3 teams could win it. I don't think Tennessee's ready with Levis and all that and a first-year coach. But to think that they're a layup to roll out of bed and win 10 games and make the playoffs, I'm not there. I mean, look at their price last year compared to this year. It is a mathematical overreaction.
Just have one follow-up on that real quick, where with that bet, I mean, that price is really, really good. And you just mentioned it all out. Let's just take for the AFC South, for example, because you just mentioned the other two teams in Indy and Jacksonville, where both of those teams have a lot of question marks going into this year. Also, if someone takes what you just said, hey, to make Houston to miss the playoffs, which of those other two teams would you like at a plus price to win the AFC South, which are readily available in both Jacksonville and Indy?
Yeah, I don't have the prices in front, but I think Indianapolis is, if Richardson can stay on the field, I like what they can do offensively. And I thought Shane Steichen did a really good job last year. I mean, I think they started, was it 3 or 4 quarterbacks, and they were still kind of at the end. He was one of those guys that was 50-1 to win Coach of the Year around week 6, and then he got up to the top of the pack. He did a really good job. The running backs were all banged up. They had some line injuries. Michael Pittman had a weird year, and they still, with a month left, weren't out of it. If Richardson can stay healthy, I think that's a team that could be interesting. What's the price you got?
So the prices I'm seeing, just if you average them out, they're both in about that plus 280 to plus 320 pocket.
Yeah.
Shopping around depending on where you get those prices.
Yeah, I was going to guess like 3-1 here that Chris and them had at the joint here at South Point. That's not a bad bet. But again, when we look at future markets, a lot of that is predicated on what happened a season ago.
Sure.
We don't look at it as bettors. Well, not we. I mean, I think we're different than some people. But we don't look at 5-year pockets or 3-year pockets. We look at 1 year, and that's not a large sample size. Rookie head coach last year, rookie quarterback, a lot of things went right. But for C.J. Stroud, the best part about everybody playing C.J. Stroud this year, you got 15, 16 games on tape. Now we know kind of what he is because it's available. And I promise you, everybody's going to be ready for C.J. Stroud this year.
Another team going to the NFC that you really like. Can you talk about the Eagles? Another year with the new coordinator on both side offense and defense, but you like them in this conference.
I do. Well, it really starts with the trickle down from San Francisco because, depending on the book you look at, 2.25, 250 to win the NFC, which they're good. Obviously, they're very talented. But San Francisco, for as much as we love them in the regular season, they kind of haven't gotten over that hump. I mean, they've been to some Super Bowls, but they haven't won the Super Bowl in a while. The Ayuk thing is certainly going to change their offense. And I know people don't want to bet on Sirianni. I understand it. But I think the Sirianni hates Hurts and vice versa stuff is overrated. I just look at what they did on defense. Last year, as I said, the Eagles started 10-1. Defense was good, healthy. And then they started to get the injury bug in the secondary. And they were just giving up 30 points, 30 points, 30 points, and then they fired Sean Desai, and they brought in Matt Patricia, who was never really a good guy anyway as a coach. He had Belichick. So those guys, those morons rather, are gone, and they bring in Fangio, who was awesome as a coordinator in San Francisco and Chicago and Miami. They drafted a corner in round 1 and round 2. The defense is going to be better. And look, I love Jason Kelce as a player. Jason Kelce at 37, I'm sorry. I know he was an all-pro, but, I mean, is Jason Kelce a real loss at 37? He's a loss, but I'm sorry. What's he worth? A point?
No,
a point and a half?
That all depends on what you think with every offensive line. Now, the one thing that the Eagles did do, which you know, of course, they drafted his heir a few years ago in Cam Jurgens, who has been playing on the line next to him. Yeah. He just shifts over. I think you made the most important point you made in there, and Alex had to listen to me all year long in the second half when they brought Patricia in to fix the defense. Yeah. You knew that was not going to work, knowing his past history. Now, defensively speaking, you have arguably one of the best defensive coordinators of the last 15 years in Fangio there. Yeah. So I think, and with everything going on with San Francisco, them and the Rams, I think, are the two teams that benefit the most from San Francisco's injury problems with McCaffrey injured and probably the likelihood of Ayuk not being on the roster year 1.
Yeah, Fangio was always I wrote this too, I think, in the story. Fangio was always a better bridesmaid than a bride.
Oh, 100%.
When he was the head coach in Denver, it did not
It was
go
not good.
well. Yeah, he was like screaming at everybody, like screaming at the quarterback, and he doesn't, whatever. But Patricia, yeah, I mean, most people I know in my life that had a pencil in their ear were smart. He went to Detroit. That was a disaster as a head coach. It's interesting. A lot of these guys leave New England, and you go to Josh McDaniels, you go to Charlie Weiss, you go to all these guys that were in New England that got good jobs, college or pro, and it didn't quite work out. You're like, maybe it was Belichick and Brady and not Matt Patricia. I think it's a good team. To me, I think you have to pick. If you don't like San Francisco, you're either a Detroit person or you're a Philly person. Yeah. I'm a Philly person, and maybe you two like Detroit. I think it's 7-1. That's a good price. They're going to be favored 14 out of 17 games. Yeah. They got Saquon, who they're going to give. They're going to give him the ball.
I saw you bet him.
Yeah, I don't know that's going to win. Offensive Player of the Year, like 20-1. They signed him to a 3-year deal. He's 27. He's going to get the ball. How many times? They're going to feed him the ball. He's going to be better and have more lanes because of Hurts. A.J. Brown's awesome. The line is going to be fine. Pro Football Focus, even without Kelsey, has him number 3 in football. Wow. So if they can shore up the defense, which it looks like they've attempted to do, they're going to be fine.
Real quick, before we get back into your futures, we have a super chat in the YouTube page. Shout out to Blade for watching here today, asking us, will the weather be a factor in Baltimore and the Meadowlands for these preseason games like it was last night? Of course, both games last night go under. A lot of that had to do with who Carolina was playing in that game.
I had Carolina last night.
Yeah.
Sucked.
Yeah, no, it's not a fun watch from anyway. Just for weather-related things, all the bad stuff that's in the Northeast today is going to be blown out by tomorrow. So there's no effect on the Jets and the Commanders game, which is a noon kick at MetLife Stadium. It's going to be 80 degrees with about 7-mile-an-hour winds. That's all you can ask for at MetLife Stadium. In Baltimore, it just depends on precipitation. Alex, Sam, as we've talked about, wind makes more of an impact than precipitation does. The wind's only going to be about 5 to 8 miles an hour at M&T Bank by the time that game kicks. So based off the weather report, weather shouldn't really be a factor by the time both of those games start.
I fly home tomorrow. So that's nice that I might miss the hurricane.
Well,
that's
maybe,
nice.
You're going to buy. Well, I didn't check Boston.
Oh,
so
you are not making it home tomorrow.
So who knows? But thank you for the super chat as always, Blade, and shout out to JR from the ballpark and Keith and Dean all in the chat as well. All right, let's Sam, let's shift over to college football because you got a lot of college football bets in this article as well, and let's start with everyone's favorite team. Ball State. Let's start in the MAC. It's funny because I was going through, it was the second one listed, and I was like, oh, we're starting off with one that's off the beaten path.
I was going to put them first, and then I thought, no, I'll put them second.
So this is a team last year that not a particularly good team, but we're talking about a low total in a MAC that, quite frankly, is down and probably will be down continuously because of how it gets impacted in the transfer portal moving forward. 3.5 wins right now is the win total on them with some juice on the over.
4-8 last year, lost 3 games by 1 score, which, sort of unlucky. They bring back 8 starters on offense, which in the modern day MAC, I think we all have to understand this with the changing landscape of college football. Teams that are good in the MAC usually lose anybody with a pulse to a power program now. Yeah. They get money, they get NIL, and they leave Ball State and go to Michigan State, whatever. He brings back, and Mike New, the head coach, is a former quarterback at Ball State. To bring back that many guys in the MAC is a big deal. And they're going to have probably, Alex, 7 or 8 games where they're -3 to +3. So if they can use that experience, score some points, I think 3.5 is an off-market number. But I've got them winning 5 this year. One guy I talked to says he thinks they can be a bowl team. That would be nice too. But I only need 4 wins. I don't think they're going to go 3-9. I think they're actually going to start 2-1, and from that point, I only need 2 more wins. But it's a bet on a team bringing back. There goes the voice. Bringing back 8 starters on offense. I made it like 20 minutes without a.
No, it's pretty good. It was very impressive. Yeah.
I don't know if it was impressive. There we go. Now I feel better.
What about them defensively? Are you concerned because they did lose some guys on that side of the ball, which really?
Yeah.
carried them last year.
They were good.
Struggled offensively.
They were good on D last year, but the MAC, nobody really plays defense in the MAC.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, it's sort of like the Pac-12 junior. Well, the RIP Pac-12.
Yeah.
We can't.
Big 12. Big 12.
Why is it, hold on. Why is it still the Big Ten? There's 18 teams in it.
Well, the mathematics have gone out the window. I mean, the Big 12 is 16. Big 12 had 10 for a while. I mean, but I mean, the Big 20 sounds good when they add 2 more at least, right?
The defense is an issue, but if their offense, you know, a great offense makes a bad defense look a lot better. And again, they're going to be in these games. I just feel like the regression from last year when they lost a game by like 3, they lost a game by 4. You know, I think that's going to even out this year and get them the 4 or 5 wins.
Speaking of the Big 18, let's go to the defending champions here, Sam.
Oh, boy.
A lot of stuff happening in the last few weeks. Sharon Moore getting in trouble. Obviously, Harbaugh's not there anymore, but that could impact the program down the road as well with everything that's gone on with the Connor Stallions nonsense and more. The win total's 9. On their schedule already, there are 3 games they're going to be underdogs in that we know. Week 2 against Texas, the game against Oregon that first week of November, and at Ohio State the final week of the regular season. I love this bet of yours. It feels like it's a push at absolute worst here at under 9.
Yeah, it's not even a bet that I was first on. I'm not going to say that I was the first guy betting under on Michigan. You know, that actually, I think the first number was 9.5.
Yeah.
You know, juiced heavily under. Now it's 9, like minus 130, minus 140. Are they going to win 10 games, though? And usually, if you go back and look at Michigan's last 5 years when Harbaugh's there, they're playing Parles State and White University and Andrews Tech. You know, like they're not playing anybody in September. The first 4 or 5 games are mostly cupcakes. This year, they got to get Texas and USC. Say they split those, they're going to lose to Oregon. Because I think this Michigan thing is going to kind of fall apart. Oregon comes into town in November, and they're going to get rolled by Ohio State. They got to go 10-2 to beat me. 9 is very probable, but the thing about Michigan is if they say they lose to USC and Texas, what are people going to write about them? Can't do it without Harbaugh. They were cheating. You know, like that's going to just take over that locker room. And another number that's very wild to me, Michigan brings back 1 starter on offense.
Woo!
1. That's not easy at a power program to turn over like that and just make all that okay. That's a lot of reproduction that they have to replace.
We're going to skip over to a team that you do like the over in their win totals, and that is Kansas Jayhawks. I think Jeff's on that.
I'm on the regular season, not the regular season, the conference win total over.
Okay, good.
KU. But 8.5 right now is still a pretty good number, Sam, on the full season.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a stale 8. I think what did I write? 8.5 in here.
8.5 with a nice plus number.
Plus price, plus 135. They lost Kotelnicki to Penn State. And he's the offensive coordinator last year, and you know James Franklin now has, I think, his 6th offensive coordinator in 8 seasons or whatever. Because you know that's the problem in Happy Valley. If you look at them in totality, you know Jalen Daniels played 3 games last year. By all accounts, I know some guys down there in Lawrence. He's healthy.
Yeah.
Knock on
Hope
wood.
so.
He stays healthy. They bring back Devin Neal at running back, who had almost 1,300 yards. They return 4 offensive linemen. And they returned 3 senior receivers. Holy crap. That's a lot of offense and a lot of production. I know what Alex is going to say. What about the defense? Yes, it's scary. But Kansas is going to score. Like, you're going to watch Kansas this year, and it's going to be like the Energizer Bunny on cocaine. It's just going to be back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. These games are going to be 48-41, 42-35. And in that league, good offense is better than good defense because there aren't any good defenses. And you look at what Kansas did last year schedule-wise. It was Oklahoma. It was Texas. It was Oklahoma State. They don't play any of those teams this year. Right. They get Arizona State. They get Houston. And they get everybody's favorite team, Yeehaw, Colorado. So the schedule is so much easier. That coach has won everywhere he's been. Yep. I actually bet them 7-1 to make the playoff.
Yeah, I don't mind that bet at all. Just going with Kansas, defensively speaking, last year they were a boom or bust. They had a lot of defensive scores last year as well.
Mhm.
They bring back their two best corners, who are arguably the two best corners in the Big 12, and Kobe Bryant and Mello Dotson. Pass rush is absolutely a question.
Sure.
And you mentioned the schedule. Chris and company hung a 5 in the conference win totals. That's been bet up to 5.5. I was a little surprised they hung a 5 because going through their schedule, there'll be a dog in Manhattan. Other than that,
Might be it.
they might be a dog at West Virginia if the Mountaineers get out to a good start, which I think is in play this year, especially if somehow they pull an upset over Penn State.
They
Week
play
1.
UNLV. I got them like 13 in that game.
They're going to beat UNLV pretty soundly. Granted, one other kicker with Kansas this year. They don't play true home games.
Yeah, they're in like a soccer stadium in Arrowhead.
They're playing where Sporting KC is, and they're playing all their conference games at Arrowhead. So I don't think that factors much, personally. The only game I think that might be a factor is when Iowa State comes calling.
Yep.
Because we know they travel. But I'm with you. I actually, we had votes for the Big 12 this year because we covered it here in Vegas. That was my preseason pick in the Big 12 was the Kansas Jayhawks.
I mean, everybody loves Kansas State, and that's fine. It makes sense. But they have a young quarterback. That's a team that usually relies on turning 2-star guys. Your dad told me this a long time ago. Turn 2-star guys into 3-star guys and turn 3-star guys into 4-star guys. That's what they do at Kansas State because they're not getting 5-star guys, recruits. Does it always work? No. I always like Kansas State when they're getting 5.5 at home. And now Kansas State's going to be going on the road laying numbers. So, it's, now that they're the hunted and not the hunter, it could be a little different. But, yeah, the two biggest flaws on Kansas are, well, they lost their offensive coordinator, and they're going to play in a soccer stadium. And I'm like, those are not really big issues.
That's not too bad if those are the flaws, right?
Yeah. They bring back the entire offense.
Yeah.
Defense will be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm excited now. I want to see what these totals are. Is there a Colorado-Kansas total out there?
I was looking for it because that was one of the bets I was going to make this week. Because is that week 0? That's week 1.
Which, Kansas and Colorado?
I think so.
No, it's the back end.
That's back end.
It's their last home game of the year, actually.
Oh, geez. Well, who knows how.
So Colorado could have fallen off the cliff by then.
Well, if Colorado's line is anywhere near where Colorado's line was last year when they had 2 or 3 guys out and Shedeur was hurt. Remember, they played Utah and couldn't move the ball.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know that I'd be playing, but I'd be curious to see those Kansas totals the first month of the season.
Yeah.
Because let's just say that they hang because it's going to take time to catch up. Say they hang a 63 or a 66 in the first game.
They will. They're playing Lindenwood, Sam.
Oh, see, because Lindenwood probably. Okay, the first competitive game. The first game where they play a team with a pulse.
At Illinois.
I went to Illinois.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't know that they have a pulse. Say that total's 63, and it lands, 42-21 or 42-28. The next week, it's going to be 66.
Yeah.
And then whoever that is, maybe it's a game in the set. So the books will get there in time, but I think it's going to take time for them to catch up. And I think they're going to play a couple games this year in the 80s and 90s.
Well, that week 3 game against UNLV, I think has...
Kansas will score. Kansas could score 50.
Well, we saw it in the bowl game last year, which still... 9 months later, still a lot of fishy things went on in that bowl game, even though Kansas covered all numbers.
Yeah.
It wouldn't shock me one bit. That was 49-36, so right in the alley.
Exactly.
Right in the alley. One last one before we let you go, Sam. Heisman.
Mm-hmm.
You're going down to Oxford with this one, and a team that a lot of people like. You're looking at Jackson Dart right now, 14-1.
Yeah, they have so much talent at receiver. Lane has done a tremendous job last 2 years at attacking the portal, and they brought in receivers and they brought in linemen. And they're going to run the ball, but last year he threw for over 3,000 yards, had 31 total touchdowns. They are going to score this year at Ole Miss. And I think this SEC is a little more open than people think. There's a game early November when Georgia comes in to Oxford. And I was in the panel the other day, the McMurphy and Bud Elliott panel, and you got to have that Heisman game or that Heisman opportunity. If they can beat Georgia, look out for Jackson Dart. 14-1. One of the last 9 favorites has won the Heisman. Spencer Rattler was a favorite one year. DJU was favored one year. Remember, Joe Burrow won it at 150, 200-1. So if you go down the board a little bit, you can be rewarded. Jackson Dart, you can find like 16-1.
Very good. I like it.
That, by the way, the good part about that as well, Sam, so late in the season, as well.
You beat Georgia.
You beat Georgia on November.
He'll be in the room.
You beat Georgia on November 9th. You get you get that to the room, assuming that it's through conventional ways that we expect, with Dart having a big game. I do want to ask you one quick thing on Georgia and Ohio State, because Chris and company put up the Georgia-Ohio State versus the field prop, and it opened a pick. Then it got bet to the Georgia-Ohio State side. Then it got bet back. It's basically been a toggling match since then. Would you have a bet on that at all, at a flip right now with Georgia and Ohio State versus the field?
I'd probably take the favorites.
You would take the favorites?
The depth is a big deal, and also with 12 teams in the playoff now, and I'm sure you guys have talked about this, there's no urgency for Georgia to dominate in the regular season. And like, if they're up in the third quarter by 2-3 scores, do you really need to beat McNeese, 75-2? So I think there's much more onus on staying healthy, on preservation, because those two are the deepest and most talented teams in the country, Georgia and Ohio State. I think it's a great prop. I love that he does this. He's been doing this forever. I would take Georgia and Ohio State. You square. It's square.
It's close, because I actually have Ohio State 1 right now over Georgia. Close. Ohio State very close over Georgia, and then the gap is just trying to figure out of who's the other team that you're looking at, number 3, which for me is the Ducks, but I don't love Dylan Gabriel as much as everyone else.
Yeah, Texas is a little overrated. Yeah, I don't know who you got. I'm guessing you got Georgia, Ohio State 1, 2 in some order, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're the two most talented teams. They are. And, the national champion is going to have to play 16 games. Usually it's the teams that have stables of depth that make it far.
It's interesting. Bud Elliott talked about that with us, too. He was in here, and he talked about, like, when teams will decide to pull back, take their guys out, like looking at all of that going into this year.
So you're studying second half unders.
Second half unders.
I mean, look, if Georgia's beating a team 28-3 at half, Georgia might only win 42-3. So that because the second half total, again, I've been talking for a half an hour here. I know you guys have to leave.
Oh, you're good.
That second half number is a formula. It's an algorithm. It's based on, what happened in the first half and how it looks to, project in the second half. But if they're up, 3 scores, 4 scores, I don't think they're going to want to blow teams out as much as they needed to, because it's different with 12 teams now.
Well, and if they win the SEC championship, they're worse going to be the 2 seed. Mm-hmm. Like, that's just the way it's going to be. I think Ohio State's the great example. Like Alex said, we talked with Bud about this on Wednesday. Ohio State, before they play Michigan, the last week of the season, with Penn State beginning this run, the middle 3 games of the back end of the schedule are Purdue, Northwestern, and Indiana.
Woo! Murderer's Row.
So that's the perfect example. Like, Ohio State's probably going to be up 28-10, 35-7 in a lot of those games at halftime. Those second half unders are going to be something to look at.
I will look at them until I get burned. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Sam, it's always a pleasure, man. Of course, Fox Sports, where you can find the article right now. Chicken Dinner, the great podcast with Roxy. Is it up yet, or is it for the people that
Buddy, I'm in Vegas. It ain't up yet.
Okay. It'll be up soon from our good friend.
Yeah, in a couple weeks, maybe.
Pleasure as always, man.
Thank you both. Appreciate
it. Coming in.
Thanks,
Alex,
Jim.
great work as always. Before we go, actually, Ryan McCormick will be on the desk tomorrow. So our good friend Ryan McCormick right now previewing Punchlines, which is coming in 2 hours from now.
Well, before I get to what's coming up on Punchlines, Sammy, we did have a question in the live chat for you.
Oh.
Kind of going to Jeff's alma mater. What do you think of Mizzou?
I think Mizzou is not going to be as good as Mizzou was last year.
I knew he was going to say it. I knew it.
I can feel Chris Andrews nodding behind me. I didn't see it, but look, it's one thing when you can't say Clemson anymore because Dabo doesn't know that the portal exists still, which is wild. But at Ohio State, at Texas, at Georgia, usually you can replicate things. I don't know on Mizzou this year. I like their coach, though. I do like Drinkwitz.
It's again, we brought this up with Bud Elliott again as well on Wednesday. Secondary is a gigantic question mark because all those guys are in the pros and they're doing great in training camps, which is always a little bit alarming.
Mm-hmm.
Offense returns basically everyone but Cody Schrader, which is obviously a huge piece to replace.
Is this the sell job? Is this what you're selling me right now?
No, it's look, the schedule's easy too.
Yeah,
all things considered, SEC wise, 10-2 is what the hope is. If you go
10-2,
what the win total's 9 and the win total's 9, isn't it, for a full season?
I was gonna say 6-6, just to.
Oh, you're really sticking it to me there.
Just trying to get you upset.
Yeah, no, 9-3's worse. I think is probably the worst record that would be even remotely acceptable by the fan base, at least for me, at least looking at the roster. At least.
And remember, he was on the hot seat last year, big time.
I know. And
coming into the year, they were saying we're going to launch him, so he saved his job and then some with that season last year.
Now it's flipped to the point of like, hey, hopefully he doesn't leave for a better job. Which
how many games did they win last year?
Won 11.
That's like you get a statue for winning 11 games at Mizzou.
Pinkel somehow hasn't gotten his yet for doing that multiple times. Thanks for bringing that up there, Ryan. That was fun. But what do we have on Punchlines here? The Nagel residency is done.
Yeah. So Nagel is out of town now. So today's guest is going to be Trevor Glassman.
Nice. That's another Mizzou guy right there.
Mizzou basketball player. He's got a distinction in SEC basketball, so that'll be fun to kind of pick his brain. He is a comedian, so Frank and him will have some good banter. But once we get to post with punchlines and that kind of thing, we will have most likely our final Olympic chunk, being that the closing ceremonies are on Sunday. And some other things around the sporting world, maybe a rule proposal change in Major League Baseball by Michael Kay, and then some other fun stuff. So got to tune in at noon.
I remember Glassman when he was at Mizzou. He was the last guy on the bench on one of the worst teams Mizzou's had in the last 20 years.
You're the only one on this desk that knows who that is.
And I'm the only person in Vegas that would probably even know that at this point. Sam, pleasure, man. Alex, good work. You guys are back tomorrow at 9 in the morning, getting you ready for a loaded NFL preseason day and, of course, a Saturday in baseball. We'll see you again then, 9 a.m., Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.